Mwahahaha. Now, I know people like scary stories and they hate them. But either way, today we're going to be reacting to them. That rhymed. Not on purpose, though. That did not rhyme on purpose, so don't get any ideas. Today we're going to be reacting to some scary animations. I got my blanket. I got the full moon. To be clear, this is actually a remote control moon. It's got every single phase. It's got an on and off button. It's got the rotation, blah, blah, blah. Anyways. So we're going to keep that as a full moon to make this extra spooky. And yeah, to be clear, I'm actually filming this at, like, what time is it? At 5:35 on April 3rd, and you probably on April 4th, and you're probably wondering why is it still light in my room? Well, I actually have a blanket covering my window. See, if I just move this aside, it's actually completely light outside. But yeah, I just got a blanket over my window, and then I got my blinds closed to make it like pitch black in here. So yeah, we're gonna be reacting to some scary animations. I found one animation. It's a clown story, but it's like a really long one, so we might get one, maybe two in, because I'm gonna try and not make this video any longer than 10 minutes. So yeah, here we go. Let us begin.
I've always loved animals, and this is the story of how I can barely even look at a dog anymore.
What?
Ever since I was a child, I knew I wanted a career where I would
Clown
need to
killed
work
his dog.
with animals.
Not sure of it.
A few weeks ago, my junior year ended and summer vacation started. I thought it was finally time to decide what I really wanted to do with my life. Since I need to start applying to colleges soon. I wanted to get a part-time job for the summer, hoping it would give me a better idea of what working with animals would be like. I started researching, and that's when I came across pet sitting. I never knew that was an option. Being paid to spend some time with animals felt like a dream. I immediately started scouring websites.
You gotta pick up all the animal crap though, so that ain't exactly that fun.
I finally found one close enough. Mr. Smith had a work meeting in another state and needed someone to take care of his Shih Tzu, Fluffy, overnight. I applied for the job, and after asking a few questions about myself, Mr. Smith selected me for it. Finally, the day of the job was here. I was bursting with excitement.
Cool.
I took out a bag to pack some of the stuff I need over the night. As soon as I did, I received a phone call. "Hi, Amanda." A heavy voice came through the phone. "This is Mr. Smith. You're supposed to come by later this evening. I was wondering if you could possibly drop by a little bit early." I looked at the empty overnight bag in the front of me and replied, "I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. I don't think that would be possible. Is there anyone else who could let me in?" "I'm afraid not." After about a moment of awkward silence, he continued, "How about I just leave the key under the doormat? You can let yourself in." "Sure, I can do that." "Great. Just make sure you take Fluffy out for a walk when you arrive."
Fluffy
Yeah,
Bloopers.
of course.
I don't know.
My words were cut off by a distant screaming, presumably directed at Mr. Smith. "I hear you're going away for the night. Make sure to take that nuisance with you." The voice of the man was rough and hostile. His words were no better. "Is everything okay?" I asked. Yeah, that's just old Larry. Never liked a living thing around him. He'll most likely scream at you too when you're walking Fluffy. Just ignore him and keep walking. He gets a little crazy. He's not dangerous, just very loud." Great, I thought to myself. "Anyway," Mr. Smith continued, "I'll leave the key under the doormat. Thanks." "No problem. Bye." I hung up the phone. After packing a pair
This is
of night
supposedly a
clothes,
clown story, keep in
toiletries,
mind. So I'm
and some other
assuming
things,
Mr. Larry's the
I headed
clown.
out.
I'm gonna take a wild
I
stab.
reached the house and bent down
That's a
to
nice
lift
house,
the doormat.
dude.
I picked up the key and opened the door. And before I even had a chance to look around,
Aww.
Fluffy jumped on me in excitement.
What a nice
Even
little
while
doogie.
jumping, she barely reached my knee. I'd met her a few times before today. She was the sweetest dog. She never even barked at strangers, much less bite them. Still,
Aww.
Mr. Smith and I thought it best to familiarize myself with Fluffy beforehand. I dropped my bag on the side, and after a few encouraging words and pats on the head, I turned around and faced the door where Fluffy's leash was hanging on the hook. I picked it up, attached it to her harness, and walked out the door.
Watch
As I
out for
locked the
Mr.
door,
Larry.
I felt Fluffy pulling on the harness. For such a small dog, she was using a considerable amount of force.
Well, yeah, she's
Considering
still a
I had a
dog.
long history of losing keys, I thought it best to leave it where I had found it. Fluffy kept tugging, and so I quickly bent down again and left the key under the doormat in a
Mr.
hurry.
Larry's gonna
We
break
took a
the
few
bad
rounds of the
idea.
park nearby, making it a point to not go too close to any of the houses. I didn't want to get screamed at by Larry. After reaching back to the Smith residence, I let out a loud sigh of relief. No screaming, hateful neighbors.
Yeah,
I
because he's
bent down
probably a
again
clown.
to pick up the key, but before I could lift the doormat, I noticed the key lying on the side. It was half peeking out underneath the doormat.
Mistake.
I picked it up while shaking my head, mentally chastising myself for my recklessness. I walked inside, untethered Fluffy's leash, and finally looked around. The first thing that caught my eye was the hideous clown statue in the living room corner.
Oh my.
It was facing the sofa, which was my bed for the night. I stared at the statue with a disgusted look on my face. It was a quintessential clown, fully equipped with a white face, red nose, colorful clothing, and comical oversized gloves and shoes.
It's gonna be a jump scare.
How am I supposed to sleep with that thing staring at me, trying to get the clown off my mind? I filled Fluffy's bowl with the dog food and set it down for her. She dug into it immediately. My head snapped back when I heard a thud coming from the other room.
Uh-oh.
There was no one in the house but Fluffy and me. My heartbeat quickened. I picked up a knife from the kitchen counter.
Good job.
And slowly walked to the living room. I looked around and sighed in relief. There was nothing there. But just to be safe, I checked the 2 bedrooms and the bathroom down the hallway. I found nothing there
clown
either.
Statue.
With a sigh of relief, I sat down on the couch
Okay, it's still
and
there.
put the knife on the table in front of me. A shiver ran down my spine as I remembered the clown. I could feel it staring at me. It made me beyond uncomfortable. I looked around, picked up the tablecloth, and threw it over the clown's head. Even with the sheet over him, his shoes were poking out. I tried to forget about it and relax, but I found myself constantly looking back at it. Every time I did, it just got creepier. Who puts a clown in the living room?
I don't know.
I thought to
Weirdo.
myself. I couldn't sit here with the statue there.
It's a real person,
and
I both guarantee
definitely
it.
couldn't sleep here. I picked up my phone and dialed Mr. Smith's number. After a few rings, he finally picked up. Hi, Amanda. Is everything okay? I spoke hesitantly. Yeah. I just wanted to ask if it will be okay if I move the statue out of the living room. I started speaking faster, feeling the need to justify myself. I'll put it back before I leave. It's just making me a little uncomfortable, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to sleep with it here. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding you. What are you talking about? My voice came out even more hesitant than before. The clown statue. In the corner? A moment passed by with no reply. I lifted the phone off my ear to check if the call was still connected. Then I heard a whisper. Amanda, we don't have a clown statue. My body tensed. With every word he uttered,
my God,
his voice
Trevor.
grew louder until he finally screamed out the words.
My.
Get out of there now! As soon as Mr. Smith said those last words, I felt a faint breath on my ear. The next few things happened instantaneously, and at that moment, I felt like the world slowed down and sped up all at the same time.
Oh God.
Panic and adrenaline filled my body. I looked back and saw a flash of white. I felt a jarring pain on the side of my abdomen. It was the clown.
And he stabbed
What I
you.
thought was a statue was standing right behind me. I screamed at the top of my lungs and kicked the clown between the legs.
Oh.
He cried out in pain and momentarily toppled over.
Ouchies.
I ran to the door, only to find it locked with a deadbolt. The thud from before, I thought. The clown had locked me in. I saw it getting up, and I ran down the hallway into one of the bedrooms.
Get a knife.
I locked
Get a
the door
knife.
behind me.
Knife.
Only once I had stopped running did I fully feel the pain in the side of my abdomen. There was a gushing stab wound.
Boy.
I put pressure on the wound to stop it from bleeding, but it wouldn't stop. I felt dizzy. Right as I thought I would pass out from the pain, I heard Fluffy cry. I cursed under my breath. I knew I couldn't leave her alone. I picked up the only thing I thought I could use as a weapon, a lamp, and slowly limped outside. I wanted to call out to Fluffy, but I knew I couldn't make any noise. When I reached the end of the hallway, I had to fight every bone in my body not to let out a scream. On the floor was a pool of blood that I was desperately hoping was not Fluffy's.
Probably
Just the
was
thought
yours.
of it made my stomach churn. I heard laughter behind me. Horrid, shrill, evil laughter. I turned around, and the clown was standing across the room, laughing at me. The instant I looked at his face, all hope left my body. Blood was dripping down his mouth.
Oh God.
My face must have shown how horrified I was, and it made the clown's smile wider. Its teeth had bits of fur stuck in it. Fluffy's fur. I felt my stomach churn at the realization of what it had done. He started walking closer, and I started backing away. Even though I was terrified,
The thing.
I could
He
hear
probably
the
don't
distant
got a gun,
sirens
but
in
that's
the
what I do.
background, which momentarily flooded me with relief. Mr. Smith must have phoned the police, but all I could focus on was Fluffy's blood dripping down its face. How could you? I croaked. He smiled and kept walking towards me until I hit the door. Before I could run, he was on top of me.
Oh boy.
We fell to the floor in a tussle. With a sinister smile on his face, he said, "It's your turn." That voice. I knew that voice. As he picked up the knife in his hand to stab me again, the door burst open. The police fired 3 consecutive shots, and its body fell on top of me. Larry's body fell on top of me. I passed out from the shock.
I called it.
When I came to, I was in a hospital bed.
I called it.
An
I did
officer
call
was
it.
sleeping in the chair across the room. I cleared my throat, and he woke up with a jolt. "You're awake," he said. I simply nodded. He proceeded to tell me that I was lucky to be alive. He told me about how they searched Larry's house and found jars of body parts, both animal and human.
Oh boy.
The officer got up from his chair, his hands together tightly in front of him. He wished me well again. He repeated how lucky I was to be alive. But I didn't feel lucky. The events of last night would never stop replaying in my mind. Most of all, I would never forget Fluffy. From that moment on, every time I would look at a dog, the image of the clown's face, mouth dripping with blood and fur stuck in his teeth, would flash across my eyes.
Okay. That was freaky, to say the least. I've heard something along those lines of a story before, but it wasn't like I've heard of this. That story is a kind of a story that we used to tell in school a lot. Of this girl went to this guy's house, and there was a clown statue, and she called the guy who owned the house, and he said, you know, we don't have a clown statue. We always used to tell that to each other, like in 5th grade, I remember. And then there's a few short movies out on YouTube, but it just shows the clown like lunging on the person, and then the movie's over. So that was the most in-depth detail I've heard. I didn't even know about Mr. Larry. I never knew about the dog. I never knew about any of the other stuff. That story was really freaky. The clown is a psychopath, and it is a horrible person. Anyways, so I think that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you like me, if you wanna keep up with my videos every Tuesday and Saturday, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, and comment saying that you did that. You get a shout out. Yeah, so I was originally gonna upload a Hunter Call of the Wild video today, but then yeah, it has a 24 gigabyte update, so I wasn't able to upload it. This is probably one of the few scary videos I'm gonna do, because like now I'm probably gonna have a nightmare about that tonight, but it's okay, because when I'm done uploading, editing and stuff, and getting this on a scheduled upload for tomorrow, I'm gonna watch a bunch of movies, like good movies. So anyways, so I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, brothers and sisters, and don't forget about music.